good, thanks. It's such a lovely day, and an easy day to be here now, I think. Yes, we're really excited to have you here, and also to delve into some philosophy in a little more depth. We've been dipping our toes in, and it's such a rich theme. So I'm really excited you're here to help guide us further in our journey. So I'm just going to say a quick hello to everyone watching, and I know that we're going to actually dive in straight away with some practice, which is a really nice place to start. So I will welcome everyone and say hello, and it's really lovely to see you all here, and thank you for joining us again this evening. And we've got people who are ready to delve into more philosophy. So Susanna's ready to dig deeper, and Cindy's really excited for the other day. But I think Kathy, Julia. So we've got a lot of lovely friendly names and friendly faces, and people really excited to be here with you and to hear from you. But I think I'm going to hand straight over to you so we can get started, and then we can certainly talk in greater depth with more of our lovely movers shortly.
Thank you, Reki. Well, good afternoon, everybody that's joining us live. We're going to start with a short meditation. I've definitely, during this time, been starting with meditation. I think it sets the scene, it sets the atmosphere for our practice. So we'll take a short meditation together. So wherever you are now, however you're watching, just close your eyes and allow yourself to settle into your seat. And as you settle into your seat, allow that seat to be as comfortable and as relaxed as possible. I want you to take a few moments just to connect to being still. Remembering that stillness is not just the physical body becoming still, but it's actually an attitude of peace. As our theme of the home retreat has been this beautiful affirmation, be here now. Let's just take a moment to really embody that. And finally, I would like you to focus. What are we focusing on? Just begin this afternoon to focus on your breathing. Don't worry about changing the breath. Just inhale and exhale. Allow the breath to come and go. Sometimes it can be helpful as we sit for meditation to tie a mantra to our breathing. The word mantra just means helping the mind cross from one state to another. So let us use the mantra in English, let go. As you inhale, silently say the word let. And as you exhale, silently the word go. Thoughts, feelings, emotions. Don't attach yourself to any of them. Let go. And the next time you exhale, bring the hands together in front of the heart in Anjali Mudra, and gently lower the head down towards the hands, taking a moment in gratitude for us being together in this practice. Namaste.
Thank you, Andrea. It's remarkable how really short amount of time, and we weren't in that for very long.
About 3 minutes.
Can still very quickly, yeah, we've had lots of comments on the class that people have been exploring today, and that links in with let go as well. And so lots of comments about how that really felt like it completed today's practice. So that's what Heidi said. But yes, a lot of people really happy and greeting us, which is wonderful. So really, I think my question was about how we link a practice like this to philosophy, and or how can philosophy help us shed light on the practice?
Well, I think the first thing that particularly this situation is showing us all is, first of all, the availability as yogis that we have to hearing teachings about philosophy. So for most of us actually, when we come to yoga, we come in through the physical realm. You know, we come in through a physical practice. And in yogic philosophy, and I'm sure many people that are listening can appreciate that, we have certain steps. And a very wonderful yogic master called Patanjali, who wrote many different parts of philosophy, but one of them was on yogic philosophy. He talked about 8 steps that we have, or 8 limbs. And the first limbs are actually about how we relate to the world, how we relate to ourselves, and then it moves into the physical. And I think that philosophy, when you begin to hear it, first of all, you have to be interested. But when you begin to hear it, when you begin to associate with it or move with teachers that try to develop the philosophy into their teaching, it begins to be something that you can then take your yoga off the mat and into the world. So something very sort of, which could be abstract, like let go, is actually a very deep philosophical teaching. And Patanjali uses this in what he calls the 2-step plan. It's a plan of action. And as we all live in the world of action, you know, this is the material world that we're all living in, it can be very helpful. And I wanted to sort of introduce this very much into how we're living right now in the situation that we're in. So I don't know whether you saw this study that came out last week, Raki. I was talking to Kat about it as well. So it was a study from King's College London, and it was talking about, and this is something I love to do, using something like science or something from out of a yoga setting, and how does it apply within the framework of yogic philosophy. So it was looking at the ways that we are coping and relating to being in lockdown, being in the situation that we're in. And they defined 3 types of individuals, 3 types of being. And they define them in this way: the acceptor, so the one that is accepting the situation. They said there was about 48% of the people that they had spoken to accepting of the situation, being able to go with the flow of the ups and downs a little bit in their own life, in their working, changing life, and also with relation to mental health, which I think is incredibly important right now. The second aspect that they spoke of was called the sufferers. And these are the individuals, about 44%, they were saying, who are really, really struggling and really having a hard time. And we know this when we've been looking at our groups. And I know with the messages that I get from students and teachers and all the beings that I connect to, you know, that there are a lot of us who are really struggling. You know, not just with the situation that they find themselves in, but again, mental health, physically, all of these things. And then the final group that they suggested, what they found was what was known as the resistors. And they were about 9% of the population. And this group was resisting everything, resisting changes in their life, again, struggling, but not in necessarily the same way as the sufferers. When I read this study, it immediately, for me, brought me right into Patanjali's teachings in this way of yogic philosophy says that the philosophy is kind of there, but it is how we relate to it, how we embody it in our own life will determine the result. And that's very key in all yogic practices. So I could give you a practice right now. But if you're an acceptor, if you're a sufferer, or if you're a resistor, you're going to adapt that practice, see that practice from your viewpoint, which is right. Your viewpoint is your viewpoint, it's my viewpoint. Patanjali, in the teachings of yoga, talks about that when we are able to practice, the word in Sanskrit, we call this abhyasa, and this is a practice that is consistent, and you stay with it for a long period of time. So it's not something that's kind of fleeting. And we can probably appreciate that in the lockdown scenario. What are we on? 7 weeks now, coming up to 8. So it's not so fleeting. Then he says, so we have this practice and we relate to it in the way that our mind, our conditioning, our projection, our preferences. Then he says there is something else that is always with practice. And this is called Vairagya. And it means a dispassion, a letting go, a moving away from. So we connect to something and then we let go of it. We hold on to something, but we let go of it. And the idea is it's like two sides of the same coin. So if I'm in a resistor group, if I'm resisting yoga, the resistor groups might not be on the movers group right now because they're resisting everything. And there are people that are yoga practitioners that are really resisting their practice. It's not doing what I want it to do. So we could be resisting the practice. Then the let go philosophical theme can feel so far removed from us. But if you're an acceptor, so if you're a student or a teacher of philosophy or a yogic practitioner that just loves to listen to these teachings, might be really enjoying, this talk that we're having now. They might just accept, wow, this is what Patanjali says. He said I should practice, I should do it for a period of time, and then I need to let go of it. If I'm suffering, if I'm really involved in that, and we need to acknowledge that there are many, many of us who are really, really suffering. That may not be me, that may not be you, but we need to acknowledge that that is a very valid sense. If we are suffering, then let go could be incredibly helpful. The point is, how do we begin to feel that? How do we begin to embody that in our own life? And so yogic philosophy says, what is it in your own life that gives you meaning? So I wonder, and I'm sure some of them that are with us right now, I know because this is what's coming to me with messages and emails. It's suddenly like, for a lot of students, they're finally recognizing that their practice gives them meaning, that their yoga gives them meaning in their life. And so therefore, using abhyasa, using a consistent practice, can help us look at the ever-changing landscape of everything that we go through in our day. So maybe sometimes you can inhale, let, you can exhale, go, and other times you have to hold on to that practice for a little longer in order to help you do that, to help you see that. You see, this is the thing about the situation that we're in, and yoga teaches this as well. Yoga is a method of a practice, a philosophical practice, which gives us tools. Individually, one tool may work for you, but it wouldn't work for me, and vice versa. So we have a vast amount of tools. We begin to see what works for us in our life, what gives meaning to us in our life. And also, yoga not only is the tools, the practice, but yoga is also the goal. And the goal of yoga, and I'm sure we all know that, is to join, to link, to connect. So even though physically we're not in the same room, we do feel that connection, don't we? That's yoga.
Absolutely. And I think you said something there that that's something that I've been exploring recently as well. And that is that understanding that yoga is the tool, but also the goal. So it is a state. So it's that state of, as you've just put it, that connection we feel with each other, and I feel very connected with the people that are here now, watching this, and communicating with us, and I've not met a lot of the people that are doing that, and all I know of them are the questions, and yet I really feel connected. I feel that we are friends, and it's really interesting that it's through the practice of yoga which has brought us all together, but that moment of just feeling that sense of rightness is also yoga. So it's both things.
Yeah, and also if you think about the situation that we find ourselves in right now, there is a sense of community and linking, because even though we might be choosing different approaches, we're accepting, we're resisting, we're suffering, we are all doing that together. And it's not just in this country, it's globally. And you see, this is in a sense what yoga is asking us to do, is to be able to see beyond what is our own individual preference, our own individual situation, in order to be able to see all of this and be able to acknowledge it. And of course, you see, Raki, what you said was, which is really important for people to understand if they want to feel this idea of let go, is that you are choosing that. You see, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, they are a choice. So something that is very helpful with a let go mantra or idea, you know, the word mantra, as I said in the meditation, it's very interesting. Man means mind, and tra is this bridge or this crossing. So the yogic tools, understanding the practice, can help us cross from one place to the next. Now, of course, that's the choice. If we are resisting it, we don't cross, we don't connect, we choose that. And for so many of us, that can be very difficult, because we think this is the situation and the situation is being placed upon us. And of course, and we've seen this, you know, you only have to look at some of the beautiful stories that we've seen in the news. I remember seeing one of a very elderly gentleman who was in a care home, and he had a frame, and they'd gone to interview him, and he said, "My mind is free." Total yogi. Now, he's probably never stepped on a mat and done a downward dog. He might have, I don't know. But you see, the attitude of a yogi is, I can be free of those thoughts. I can be free of that suffering. It is my own choice. And it requires us to have something which they spoke a lot about yesterday. Again, VE Day, which was wonderful to see. Did you see some of the celebrations and the different things?
I had the fly past go
wow.
over my flat, and I'd forgotten, or didn't think, because they don't always go past. And then there was this almighty massive roar just after 10 o'clock, and I was like, what on earth? And I thought it must be the fly past, and I shot out to my balcony and I could just see all the colors melting into the sky. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful.
Well, a word that seemed to be spoken of a lot yesterday, and I think that it's also being spoken of right now, is this word resilience. And resilience, you see, again, is a yogic practice. Resilience actually means to recoil back in order to spring forth. And that's a yoga philosophy teaching. If we come to yoga and we've only been in the physical, we may not have been able to enjoy or be able to sit with those internal thoughts. So in other words, we're not finding that we're feeling that resilient, because to kind of sit and be with yourself and your thoughts can be very difficult. So this is also, I think, a process of time for us to really think about the kinds of practices that we explore, the kinds of practices that may be helpful or not for us. I mean, there is a great relevance in taking a very good asana practice when you need to kind of clear out the body, yet there is equal relevance. And Patanjali says all of this in his Yoga Sutras, in looking at your ability to breathe, in looking at your ability to clear the body so that you can sit well and recoil, reflect back. And so that resilient idea is a principle that yoga can help us with. I mean, if the yoga practice is doing anything for us, it should be about being able to be flexible in mind and thought. And of course, for most of us, we think it's about being able to stick our feet behind our head. Now, that could do it for you. I mean, it could. But flexibility is in the adaptability to our situation. And that is why I think so many students now, and so many in the movers group, reach out and send messages, when they see the classes and they take the classes in, it was something that was said in the class that wow, what was that let go mantra? Where is this from? How can I use that in my daily life?
And in fact, Vera's posted a question, I think, the minute this was scheduled, and I think you've really touched on answering a lot of this, but I've promised I will read it out to read it out in case there's anything you want to add. But really, she says, what advice would you give for us to let it go on a daily basis? We're all confronting difficult problems, missing friends, feeling restricted. So that feeling of suffering, which is what you talked about, and it's difficult to think of letting it go. So again, that sense of resistance of, no, I feel this. It's and it's a genuine suffering. How do we deal with this? So you've talked about choice, but is there anything else
Raki, your sound has gone down a little bit. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. So can you hear me?
I can't hear you very well now. So let me just check what's happening there.
Is everyone else able to hear us? Do you want to press yes into
You can still hear
contact?
me okay? Yes, I can't hear you, sweetheart.
Okay, can you hear me? Not at all. Okay, keep talking.
Okay.
So, and I'll type the comment.
So the other thing that I also wanted to say was, which I think is really important, is, you know, if you think about everyday life, I know for me, yesterday I was out in the garden. Thank you. You can hear us both. That's good. I was out in the garden and I've got these 4 bamboos in the garden, bamboo plants. And I was doing a little bit of gardening, come off Zoom for a little bit, and that was good. And I was doing some pruning because, you know, if you've got bamboo in your garden, it can be really, really challenging. It just sort of goes everywhere. And as I was pruning away, I noticed with one of the plants that actually it was hiding one of my rose bushes. And that's a little bit like our thoughts. That's a little bit like these feelings, these strong emotions that can come up. If we don't do the pruning, which is like a meditation practice, it's like the bamboo takes over and we don't see the beauty of the rose bush. You know, when you really do something like that, like gardening or painting or drawing or poetry or reading, it can be a very, very good process for the mind to see, what am I choosing in this moment? So remember those 3 groups. Acceptance of the present. I cannot change the situation right now. I heard this amazing quote yesterday. I cannot change the situation right now. But is it channeling something within me to change myself? Because I can't change the outward scenario. And that's what let go can help us with. I might not change the outward scenario. I don't know what's going to be said tomorrow when we think about, you know, what's happening. But if that situation doesn't turn out the way that I would like it, what am I going to do with that? How can my yoga practice help me to be more connected to let go of anything negative? So I wanted to kind of use that image of the bamboo. You know, what is it that individually we really, really need to clear away? It's those negative thoughts. It can be, you know, like I said, strong emotions, or getting up in a day and then just thinking, exactly, we can only change our own response. This is the teaching of philosophy. Patanjali has a great idea. He says, when you're really disturbed by something, do your best to try and think of the opposite. It's brilliant advice. It's not easy, but it is a tool that could help us. When we're disturbed by anything, think of something opposite to let go of that negative thought, so it doesn't channel us into then a story of negativity. And then, of course, you know, if we go back to that study group, if we're in the sufferers group and we know we have the tendency for that, then we should really do everything that we can, everything within our own power, to think about our thoughts even more, to think about the situation that we are in.
So instead of running away, it's your advice is, when you can't let it go, be here.
So I wanted to give you some simple things that are helpful. According to yoga, having this idea of abhyasa, this idea of simple, consistent practices, like a daily practice, in the morning. What do you need to let go of today? Daily practice in the evening. What do you need to let go of? Doing things consistently, even if it's something very, very simple, one philosophical teaching, one asana practice, one meditation practice, not overwhelming yourself when the outer world can feel very overwhelming. Just focusing on one thing. This is abhyasa. And this is what I've been doing. I've been doing my daily practice. I've been upping my breath work, really focusing on breathing. Pranayama is so, so important for us. The way that we look at restraining the breath in order to be able to set it free. So if we were to now, together, go back into the meditation, the let go meditation, let's see whether or not we are able to allow ourselves to ride the waves of whatever thoughts come in and come up. See whether or not there is a little more of a deeper teaching in I'm here now. I can't focus too much on the future. I don't want to really focus too much on the past, although the past takes us to where we are now. But what is my mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual state like now? That is all we're really in control of. Shall we try it together? Okay, so let's take our seat. And again, that might be slightly different to what we did first of all. But as we take the seat, close the eyes. Think about that embodiment of stillness, the sense of shanti, of peace in the body, in the mind, and with the breath. And begin to focus. Focus your attention on the mantra, let go. As thoughts arise, inhale, silently say let. Exhale, silently say go. Acknowledge, but don't hold on. Stay with the practice. A couple more minutes. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Draw your head forward towards your hands. Let the eyes open, gazing towards the hands. And then slowly release the arms. And inhale and lift your head. And just notice if there is a shift or a change in mood or atmosphere. You know, we can use the let go mantra when we're walking. We can use the let go mantra anywhere. It is a way for us to connect with this teaching from Patanjali, Abhyasa Vairagya. It comes and it goes. And as someone rightly says, you know, it is our ability of the accepting of this change, this flux, this flexibility, adaptability, to be here now, you know, to be in the midst of this. We want to be out of it, but here is where we are. And how do we feel about that? And that can change minute to minute, daily, weekly. It's the practice of our times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
so. I know you wanted to. There was a few questions, wasn't there? I wonder whether or not, if anybody has any questions at all, or Raki, maybe you could write it down. I mean, we're managing fine. I know you're smiling at me, so and as long as you can all hear us, so. Calmer and deeper the second time round, somebody said. That's great. That's great. And, you know, there's something in that with this idea of repetition of practice. You know, that's the abhyasa. Try to stick with it. I know many of you have taken the class today, and some of you will do the class later, the Let Go class. This mantra is a mantra that my teacher gave to me many years ago. And she worked with this mantra in particular for her meditation for nearly 27 years. And she really thought that it was a wonderful way. This is Sharon Gannon from the Jivamukti Yoga method. A wonderful way for us to be with ourselves and be with our thoughts and be with the ever-changing environment, our inner changing environment, our outer changing environment. So Raki is asking, resilience and rebound. You love the explanation of resilience. Yes, yes. Yeah, so abhyasa and vairagya. Vairagya is this letting go, vairagya. It comes from the Yoga Sutra in chapter 1, verse 12. And it is the two sides of the coin. Yeah, the two sides of the coin. So that would be really, really lovely. And Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is the teaching that we have been exploring today. The second step, so the first is abhyasa, the consistent practice taught for a long period of time. And the second step is the vairagya, our ability of detaching or non-attachment or letting go of any result. You know, this is the thing, you know, one time we come to the mat and we have a wonderful practice and we feel wonderful. But when we come the next day and we don't feel so good, is it the practice that's wrong? It's the letting go of it. So even if we feel, you know, happy or joyful, we have to also understand that those things may and possibly will also change. our ability to go with the flow. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, because I know when I was listening to Lucy with her teaching, and she was mentioning Ram Dass, which is such a beautiful title, the Be Here Now. Many of you might have read Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now. And I think that is a wonderful book if you've never read it. But I wanted to share one of Ram Dass's quotes with you, which I think will be thought-provoking. So the quote is this: when you know that there's no place to hide away, then you wonder, who have you been hiding from? I'm going to say that again. When you know that there's no place to hide away, then you wonder, who have you been hiding from?
So, Andrea, can you hear me now?
I can't hear you now. I'm lip reading wonderfully.
I will enunciate. We have a question.
You have a question
about the practice of practicing the opposites.
So, thinking of the opposite.
Yeah. So Susanna asks, how
so
do
it
you
isn't,
do it?
I can read it here. Thank you,
Yeah.
Raki. It's not about a suppressing. Again, it's that choice of attitude. So the nature of the mind, this is important, is generally the mind will jump to the negative rather than the positive. So when you do your meditation practice, or when you do any practice actually, you know, really watch what comes up in the mind. So remember again, you know, the acceptors, the sufferers, the resistors, you know, watch what comes in. There's a tendency that our minds individually, without practice, can be. So if we know that the nature of most people's minds is to jump to the negative first, then our job is to give the mind something else. So it's not about suppressing difficulty. It's about choosing to think of something positive, to think the opposite of that. So, for example, if anger comes up, you think about the opposite of anger. If fear comes up, you think about the opposite of fear. And again, it's a really great practice to do. It's an exercise. You know, the mind, we get this image often in yoga, which is the monkey mind. The mind will jump from one thing to the other. But if we know that generally it tends to jump to a negative place, how come some people can train it to be more positive? Well, abhyasa, practice. They've practiced it. It probably is not their natural inclination. And so the advanced yogi is really the advancing of our attitude, the advancing of our ability to stay in the midst of our lives, not hiding away from it, not suppressing things, acknowledging. In the meditation, you heard me say the word, you can acknowledge the thought. So we need to be really clear about that. We're not saying that there isn't huge suffering. It's to be aware of that. But as a yogi, what we want to develop is a mind state that can help us keep the mind in a more positive state. Not only does that help ourselves, but we then begin to develop more empathy and compassion for those who are really deeply suffering.
Yesterday, Ju offered the Tong Lem Meditation, which is the same similar offering. So you are acknowledging the pain or the suffering, but in return you're also able to offer soothing or calm.
And notice when you do the meditation, I mean, we did 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. You said at the beginning, Raki, even those few moments of just centering, what it does is that it brings us into a place in ourselves. The Buddhists call this the ability to touch and go, which is another really great concept. The yogis use it as well. In other words, when we do a practice, for a moment we're touching something within us. We're finding a place within us, and then we go and we live our life, and then we come back, we touch something, we connect with it, and then we go again. It's this wonderful ability to go with the flow. That is the Vairagya. And it doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter. Patanjali says that it doesn't matter what tool you use to be able to do that. It's all individual. But if you stay with it for a period of time long enough, then hopefully it will bring great meaning to you in your life. And that is what these yogic philosophical teachers can share with us. They've got the t-shirt, you know, they've written the books, they've done the work. And I find that inspiring. And it is why I continue to pick up these books and to study with my teachers and to be inspired to create classes for movement so that people can look at them and explore them and know that not every practice is going to be completely suitable for you. It all depends on where you are right now. But it might mean that in a different period in your life, something is going to be suitable for you. And that's why, you know, on movement, we have such great teachers with all these different variety of practices so that you can find the tools that can help you in your life.
So I just wanted to check if anyone else had any other questions about...
So is there any more? Yes, any more questions? Thank you for saying that that is helpful. I hope that you have found it helpful, and I hope that whatever you are dealing with right now, however you're feeling, even though we are being here and we're being present, this time will pass and we will move to another time. That is one of the other beautiful teachings of yoga. Nothing is permanent, no state, no situation, no practice. And it is our ability to look at that and share it with others that will help keep our satsang and our yoga community strong. So sending you all lots of love and support, and please let us know any comments on all of the classes. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. Thank you, Raki.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.